Something that I'm never able to get into no matter how hard I tried is sports. It just always bored the living fuck out of me. If I wanted to watch men play with balls, I'd go onto the hub. But the most boring one out of all of them easily is baseball. I'd rather watch Amy Schumer's insufferable comedy for 10 hours straight than watch a single baseball game, because at least there would be something going on.
The honor of being the final host before the midterm elections. What did I say?
I genuinely think I would be more entertained by watching paint dry than watching baseball. People who can actually sit down and watch that sport for hours on end must have the patience of a monk. I just don't get it. But I'm not saying all of this to try and seem cool for not liking something popular. I'm only mentioning it because the topic that I'm discussing today compelled me so much that I just had to talk about it, because it genuinely might just be one of the biggest scandals in sports history. And that is the story of Shohei Ohtani and his interpreter Ippei Mizuhara, who stole $4.5 million from him and used it to pay off his gambling debt. And the most tragic part was that this was also Shohei's best friend. Now, Shohei Ohtani is like one of the biggest names in baseball and in sports in general. Now, I don't know jack shit about sports. Like, I didn't even know that Messi was playing for Argentina until the World Cup happened, and I'm literally Argentinian. But even I know who this guy is because he's literally a baseball prodigy and basically a modern day Babe Ruth. He's broken like a ton of records and recently signed one of the biggest contracts in sports history for $700 million. He's a pretty big deal. So how exactly did Shohei's best friend end up almost completely ruining his career? Well, let's start from the beginning. Shohei and Ippei's relationship goes all the way back to when Shohei first began playing professionally at 18 years old. Shohei's professional debut as a baseball player was for the Nippon Ham Fighters in Japan. It was there where he met Ippei, who was an interpreter for the English-speaking players. They hit it off, and over time, they became really good friends. When Shohei signed to the Los Angeles Angels in 2017, he specifically requested Ippei to be his interpreter, and he was signed to the team. Now, since Shohei barely spoke English, Ippei went everywhere that he went. Now, being in a different country where you barely know anybody and barely even know the language, it can be pretty hard to make friends. So naturally, you'll start to develop a bond with the person who speaks the exact same language as you and who's with you all the time. And since Ippei was the only person that spoke Japanese and quite literally never left Shohei's side, naturally they became really good friends. They got extremely close to the point where they were more than just co-workers. And Ippei's role with Shohei ended up becoming more than just simply being a translator. They started spending genuine time with each other off the field, going to basketball games, football games, and doing a bunch of cute little stuff together. Shohei considered Ippei a person that he trusted with his life. When Shohei entered the 2021 Major League Baseball Home Derby, he picked Ippei to be his personal catcher. That's a pretty big deal. And Ippei was so dedicated to the role that he started practicing non-stop with the other Angel players so that he could be ready. December of 2021 to March 2022 was the 9th work stoppage in baseball history, aka the 2021 to 2022 Major League Baseball lockout. There was a giant disagreement between the owners of the MLB and the Major League Baseball Association, so baseball basically stopped as a whole. And the only way that baseball would continue is if the owners got their demands met. That's all you really need to know. And during this time, Ippei temporarily resigned from the Angels so that he could continue to work with Shohei, because he was just that dedicated to working for him. They were more than just friends, they were brothers. But then, Shohei got the deal of a lifetime. 2024 was record-breaking for Shohei because that's when he signed his deal to the LA Dodgers for $700 million. And this is quite literally the largest contract in history. The only person who came even close to that was Messi when he signed a deal for $673 million. But Shohei was just that talented and in demand, I guess. This deal may have been the best and the worst thing to happen to Shohei, but it's not as straightforward as you think, because it's not like he's getting the $700 mil up front, nor is he getting like $70 million a year. His actual salary from the team is $2 million a year for 10 years, and then at the end of the 10 years, he gets to $680 million. The actual reason for this is like super complicated because of taxes and stuff, but just know he's not getting at least 90% of the money until after the deal ends. And even though he's only getting a fraction of that money for the time being, he's still making good ass money. Just from his latest season alone, he made $40 million from brand deals and also made $30 million from when he was on the Angels, so financially he's doing fine. But Shohei could barely even enjoy the success of this new deal because a couple months later is when shit started to go down. On Monday, March 18th, it was revealed that 2 wire transfers from Shohei's account that totaled $1 million were sent to Matthew Boyer, hire an illegal bookmaker in Southern California. This is pretty bad, because while it's not illegal for athletes to gamble on other sports or gamble in general, it is illegal to gamble in California. So if Shohei is sending large amounts of cash to a known illegal bookmaker, it could get him in jail and kicked off the team. So people were wondering why he was sending all of this money to Matthew. Shohei's spokesperson said that Shohei sent all of the money to Matthew to cover Ippei's gambling debt, which is still not a good look for Shohei, because even if he's covering the gambling debts of bets that he did not make, he still could get kicked off the team and sent to jail because that's still illegal. However, Shohei didn't actually say this himself. The spokesperson who announced this information got it from his agent, who got it from Ippei, who got it from Shohei. Because again, Shohei can't speak English, so he has other people who do this for him. The next day, Ippei had an interview with ESPN where he went further into detail with the situation. He revealed that he had over $4.5 million worth of debt to Matthew. He initially met the bookkeeper at a poker game in San Diego and started placing bets through his organization on other sports. He never actually bet on baseball though. Now, Ippei had very little gambling experience at the time and only used DraftKings, so he claimed that he did not know what he was doing was actually illegal. But by the end of 2022, he was over $1 million in debt to Matthew from doing quite a lot of bad bets. But since his salary was only $85K a year, he had to start borrowing money from his family and friends to try and repay back some of the money. But then his debt reached $4 million, and being millions in debt to an illegal bookkeeper is not something you want on your to-do list. So he went to his good friend that he could trust to help with his debt situation, Shohei. Ippei explained the situation to Shohei, and he reluctantly bailed him out. They both logged onto Shohei's bank account and started wiring the money to Matthew in increments of $500K. Shohei wired the money himself rather than giving it to Ippei so that he would not be tempted to gamble it all away. And they weren't very discreet about it because they quite literally put loan as a description for the payments. And at the time, neither of them actually thought about the legal risks or what it could possibly do to their career. Ippei emphasized that Shohei had no idea that what he was doing was illegal in any way and that he was just simply trying to help his friend out. And he took all the blame for the incident. And after it was said and done, both moved on with their lives and forgot about the whole thing. Now, this was all according to Ippei, but Shohei himself still has not said anything about it. And while this was pretty big news at the time, there was no suspicion of theft. The next day was the opening game of the season and the Dodgers were playing against the Padres. It's a great game because Shohei got 2 hits in, the Dodgers win 5-2, and he's seen laughing with Ippei in the dugout like as if nothing happened. But after the game, the team has a meeting in the clubhouse and they are told to expect some pretty bad news. Ippei opens up about his gambling situation and apologizes to the entire team. But he doesn't mention the part about how the debts were being paid off. One of the executives steps in and mentions the fact that Shohei was the one who bailed him out by paying off all of his debt. Now, since Shohei, again, can't speak English, he had no idea what they were saying in the meeting at the time and asked to be caught up on the whole thing. But when being told about what happened, Shohei was confused. And as it turns out, Shohei was completely unaware of what was going on. He didn't know about Ippei's gambling problem, the debt, or even the money being taken out of his account in the first place. He had no idea about any of this shit that was happening. Turns out, Ippei completely lied and betrayed Shohei. In reality, Ippei was the one who actually wired the money from Shohei's account in his name and sent it to Matthew. And since every single word is translated directly through Ippei, he took advantage of his position to try and lie to Shohei and the public and make sure that no one found out. Upon hearing this, Shohei immediately tells his spokesperson to inform the press that he had no idea what was going on. Shohei's spokesperson frantically calls all the major publishers and lets them know that Shohei was lied to and that everything was complete bullshit. Shohei never ever agreed to pay off the gambling debt. 2 hours later, Shohei's lawyers issue a statement. In the course of responding to recent media inquiries, we have discovered that Shohei has been the victim of a massive theft and we are now turning the matter over to the authorities. They never specifically said that Ippei was the one who stole from him, but we all knew that it was him. And not even a half hour later after this happens, Ippei is fired from the team for theft. The next day, Ippei did an interview where he took back everything he said and came completely clean. Well, for the most part. Ippei says that Shohei had no knowledge about the gambling, the debts, or how the debt was paid off in the first place. However, he doesn't mention the fact that he stole the money. When asked about the theft allegations, he responds with no comment. He took all the fault for mostly everything and was ready for the consequences. However, Ippei's exposure wasn't done. After he was exposed for stealing Shohei's money, he was also exposed for a bunch of stuff that he has lied for in the past. Ippei claimed that he graduated from the University of California, Riverside in 2007, but that was not true. The school completely denied that he ever attended there in the first place. Our university records do not show a student by the name of Ippei Mizuhara having attended UC Riverside. In previous reports, Ippei also claimed to be an interpreter for Hideki Okahima for the Boston Red Sox in 2010, but the team denied him ever working for Okahima or for the team in general. We are reaching out to all of you because of reports in various outlets stating that Ippei Mizuhara worked for the Red Sox as an interpreter, which is incorrect. Mizuhara was never employed by the Boston Red Sox in any capacity and was not an interpreter for Hideki Okahima during the pitcher's time with the team. Please know that we have thoroughly checked our files to ensure that we are providing accurate information. I mean, this guy was getting exposed left and right for all of the lies that he told. At this point, we don't even know if he was Japanese. Now, even after all of this, Shohei still has never directly commented about anything of the matter. The day after Ippei was fired, the Shoheis played against the Padres again and, well, lost. Shohei did not say a single word to the media who were obviously frantically asking him questions. The only time he spoke was to the Japanese reporters and simply said, "Have a good night." Shohei kept his mouth completely shut about the incident for days, leaving everyone on the edge of their seats. Because this is not something he was going to be able to ignore. He was going to have to address it at some point. Nearly a week later, Shohei finally addressed the incident. He claimed that he's never bet on sports and was extremely disappointed in what happened. "I'm very saddened and shocked that someone who I've trusted has done this. I never bet on baseball or any other sports, or never have asked somebody to do it on my behalf, and I have never gone through a bookmaker to bet on sports." So that's that. Now the next question is, what's next for Shohei? Legally, it seems completely fine for him. His story seems to completely match up with everything that we've been told, because it honestly genuinely seems like he had no idea what the fuck was going on. He's still been allowed to play on the team and is still scheduled to do so throughout the season. But considering every single word was communicated through Ippei, it is very, very believable that he took advantage of his position. After all, it's his literal job to translate the language barrier. The likelihood that Shohei actually did pay off Ippei's debt and then they worked together to make Shohei look completely innocent and ignorant about the whole thing is not very as likely. This wasn't a story of a friend who helped his other friend get out of his gambling debt. This was a story of betrayal. Shohei and Ippei were best friends. They were quite literally nicknamed peanut butter and jelly because of how much time they spent together. Shohei trusted Ippei so much that he had him do all of his communication, which says a lot considering he is quite literally one of the biggest athletes in the world. Having a single person do all of that for you on your behalf really shows just how much you trust someone. To Shohei, that relationship was priceless, but to Ippei, it could have been bought. Because at the end of the day, I don't think Shohei is really sad about the money. In 10 years, he's gonna have way more money than he can possibly imagine. And he's already stacked on top of that. But knowing that someone you trusted with your life and considered a brother was willing to betray you, risk your career, and get you in jail just to correct their fuck-ups is something that really can't be healed. This isn't an issue that Shohei is just simply going to be able to pay away. And honestly, I feel terrible for him because the amount of trust issues this probably caused for him is immeasurable. I honestly hope that he can move on from this, and I hope Ippei drops the soap in jail. Shalom.